As the drummer and lead singer of Genesis, Phil Collins has been a beloved figure in the world of music for decades, but it wasn't until the release of his first solo album, Face Value, in 1981 that Collins truly emerged as a force to be reckoned with. Over the years, Collins has continued to produce hit after hit, from ballads like Against All Odds to rock anthems like In the Air Tonight. Collins has centered his place as one of the most successful artists of all time, with over 200 million records sold. Phil Collins' musical journey began in the early 1970s as the drummer for the jazz fusion band Brand X. In 1970, Collins was invited to join Genesis as their drummer and quickly became an integral part to the band's sound. In 1975, following the departure of lead singer Peter Gabriel, Collins stepped up to the mic and took on the role of lead singer for Genesis. This move proved to be a turning point in his career as he began to establish himself as a talented songwriter and vocalist. 1981 marked the year of Phil Collins' debut solo album, Face Value. Face Value features one of Collins' most iconic songs, In the Air Tonight, with its haunting synth and culturally iconic drum fill. The song's emotional lyrics and cinematic production make it a standout track and a fan favorite. Face Value was a commercial and critical success, reaching the top of the charts in several countries and earning Collins a Grammy nomination for Best Male Pop Vocal Performance. Critics praised the album's emotional depth and has since been regarded as a classic of the 80s. Face Value sold over 5 million copies worldwide, making it one of the best-selling albums of Collins' career. In 1982, Phil Collins released his second solo album, Hello, I Must Be Going, which further solidified his status as a major force in pop music. The 10 songs on Hello, I Must Be Going include the singles You Can't Hurry Love and I Don't Care Anymore. You Can't Hurry Love was a cover of the classic Motown hit by the Supremes, and it became a huge hit for Collins, reaching the #1 spot in the UK and number 10 in the US. Hello, I Must Be Going was another commercial success for Phil, reaching number 2 in the UK and number 8 in the US. Critics praised the album's catchy hooks and Collins' songwriting skills, although some felt it didn't quite live up to the standards set by his debut. In 1985, Phil released his third studio album, No Jacket Required, which would go on to become one of his biggest commercial successes. This album marked a significant shift in his sound as he moved away from the experimental and sometimes moody tone of his earlier work and embraced a more upbeat, pop-orientated style. No Jacket Required features some of Collins' most iconic hits, including Sussudio, One More Night, and Don't Lose My Number. No Jacket Required was a commercial and critical success, winning Collins 3 Grammy Awards, including Album of the Year. The album also helped cement Collins' status as one of the biggest pop stars of the 80s. Let's take a break from traditional studio albums for a quick moment. In 1988, Phil Collins released the soundtrack for the film Buster. The album's most well-known song, Two Hearts, became a hit on both sides of the Atlantic, reaching the top of the charts in the UK and the top 20 in the US, as well as being nominated for an Oscar. A Groovy Kinda Love is another standout track on the album, an even bigger hit, showcasing Collins' ability to reinvent the classic 1960s track. The song became a major hit, reaching #1 in the US and solidifying Collins' status as a pop superstar, and inadvertently giving him the title of a sappy ballad singer. In 1989, Phil Collins released his 4th studio album, But Seriously, which continued his successful streak and cemented his place as one of the biggest pop stars of the 1980s. But Seriously features some of Collins' biggest hits, including Another Day in Paradise, Something Happened on the Way to Heaven, and Do You Remember? Another Day in Paradise was the album's lead single and became a massive hit, reaching the top of the charts in several countries and earned him another Grammy. At the time, But Seriously was his most personal and introspective album, and the songwriting reflects a more mature, socially conscious perspective. Phil Collins' studio albums have produced countless hits over the years. Some of his biggest songs actually came from sources outside of those albums. Easy Lover, Collins' big hit with Earth, Wind & Fire's Philip Bailey, was actually released on Bailey's solo album, Chinese Wall, which Collins produced and played drums on. The song reached #2 on the US charts and was a worldwide success. A duet with Marilyn Martin was originally released on the soundtrack to the film White Nights. The song became a massive hit, reaching #1 on the US charts and earning an Academy Award nomination for Best Original Song. In addition to these songs, Against All Odds, and the songs I mentioned from Buster, these non-album tracks showcase the incredible range and versatility of Phil Collins. In In 1993, Phil Collins released his fifth solo album, Both Sides, marking a significant departure from his signature pop sound and showcasing his talents as a singer-songwriter. The album features a mix of intimate, minimal ballads and atmospheric, moody tracks. The opening track, Both Sides of the Story, is a contemplative, thought-provoking song that reflects on the complex nature of human relationships. This album received mixed reviews upon its release, with some critics praising its introspective themes, while others found it too understated. In interviews, Collins cited this album as a personal and reflective album and one of his personal favorites. In 1996, Phil Collins released his sixth studio album, Dance Into the Light, marking a departure from his introspective themes on the previous albums and a return to his signature upbeat pop sound. The album's title track and lead single, Dance Into the Light, is a catchy, upbeat anthem that blends African rhythms with Collins' pop sensibilities. Dance Into the Light received mixed reviews upon its release, with some critics praising its upbeat, optimistic themes, and others found it too formulaic and lacking in depth. Nevertheless, the album was a commercial success, reaching the top of the charts in several countries. In 1999, Phil Collins took a new creative challenge, writing and producing the music for Disney's animated film, Tarzan. The resulting soundtrack features a mix of pop, rock, and African-inspired music. Its most well-known song, You'll Be in My Heart, won an Academy Award and a Golden Globe for Best Original Song. In interviews, Collins has expressed his enthusiasm for working on the Tarzan soundtrack, noting that it allowed him to explore new musical influences and to challenge himself creatively. Fast forward to 2002, Phil Collins released Testify, his first solo album in 6 years. Featuring a mix of pop, rock, and world music influences, the album's lead single, Can't Stop Loving You, was a commercial success, reaching the top 10 in several countries. The album's songs touch on themes of loss, regret, and hope for the future, making it a deeply personal and introspective work. By this time, Phil's popularity in the music industry had decreased as rap and pop and grunge overwhelmed the airwaves. Regardless, the album still sold over 1.4 million copies and spawned new classics like Least You Can Do and Can't Stop Loving You. Phil's previous Disney soundtrack, Tarzan, was a massive commercial success and critical hit. His 2003 follow-up, Brother Bear, struggled to find the same level of success. Regardless, Phil has spoken fondly of his experience working on Brother Bear, noting that it allowed him to explore new musical territories and collaborate with talented musicians from around the world. His 2010 album, Going Back, marked another departure from his typical sound and returned to his musical roots. The album features covers of 60s, Motown, and soul classics, paying tribute to the music that inspired Collins as a young musician. Collins' vocals are smooth and polished, delivering soulful lyrics with passion and sincerity. Going Back was met with generally positive reviews, with many critics praising Collins' vocal performance and the album's authentic sound. The album charted well in the UK and other countries, further cementing Collins' status as a successful and versatile musician. While there hasn't been a proper studio album since Going Back, Phil Collins had a long and successful career with many releases that have become beloved by fans. Among them is Serious Hits Live, a live album recorded during his 1990 But Seriously tour. And a decade later, he would release another live album of hits, but this time they'd be big band versions in 1999 called A Hot Night in Paris. Collins also released a greatest hits album in 1998 titled Hits, and many years later in 2004, Collins released a compilation album titled Love Songs, which featured some of his most romantic and emotional songs. And more recently, his music has also been celebrated through a series of reissues titled Take a Look at Me Now. Released in 2015 and 2016, this series featured remastered versions of all his solo albums, including demos and previously unreleased material. The series also saw Phil retake all of the photos used for album covers, replacing the originals with a more aged and mature Phil Collins, a nod to the passage of time and Collins' reflection on his own life and music career. It could be said that the Take a Look at Me Now campaign reintroduced the Phil Collins discography to a new, younger generation. Phil Collins' discography spans decades and is marked by a remarkable range of musical styles and collaborations. From his early work with Genesis to his iconic solo career, Collins has left an indelible mark on the musical world. He's earned countless awards, top charts, and captivated audiences with his catchy melodies and soulful ballads. Whether you're a longtime fan or a newcomer to his music, Phil Collins' discography is a testament to his enduring talent and creativity.